Good afternoon, fellow ruminators. Welcome back to another session, Rumination with Andrew. Thank you so much for joining as we are about to discuss a very important topical matter. And this morning, we are going to talk about Mark Golding. And he has come on the scene with vengeance, right? With vengeance in his eyes, like a thunderous storm. Mark Golding has hit the waves, and he is letting us know that he is no politician. Inexperienced though he be, he's no politician on whom we can walk. That is what Mark Golding is suggesting to us. And therefore, my title has been affirmed, and I'm titling the video today, Can Andrew Holness Win a Third Term? Mark Golding's bold manifesto. Can he stop Holness's third term in office? Now, this is a very important question that we have to pose because, as we know, politics is about politicking and about electioneering, and it's a gamble. It's like the stock market. You can think it can be high today and tomorrow it's low. So we know that Andrew Holness was riding on a high tide. And it seems to me now that that tide could be waning. When I looked at what happened at the Pegasus Hotel, where Mark Golding launched his manifesto, I had to say that I was impressed with what I saw. Everybody was looking clean and dandy and eloquent, and they eloquently pronounced what they were going to do. Of course, it's a lot of hype because they haven't told us how they are going to achieve the major manifesto plans that they have outlined in their recently published manifesto. So this morning we are going to look, or this afternoon I should say, briefly at the manifesto. Mark Golding has just unveiled a bold manifesto at the People's National Party's vibrant annual conference. But the big question remains, can his vision really stop Andrew Holness from securing a historic third term as Jamaica's Prime Minister and leader of the JLP? In this video, we break down the key promises in Golding's manifesto, how Jamaicans are reacting to his message, whether the PNP has the momentum to challenge the JLP in the next election, and what this means for Andrew Holness and the possibility of a third term. Jamaica's political future is at a crossroads, and this battle between Holness and Golding could decide it all. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more bold political analysis. Now, when we look at the fact that Mark Golding was almost an insignificant person, months, a year ago, because people said that he was just not gaining traction with the voters. But Mark Golding has come on the scene recently with blood in an eye, and it's almost like he's about to capture the election. He's hungry for it, and he thinks that he is going to win. Interestingly, recently I read an article also by Peter Esfute, who writes for The Gleaner every Friday mornings. And I was interested in that. Well, my curiosity was piqued when he was talking about the fact that Mark Golding is going to inherit, and he said it very confidently, the projects that Andrew Holness has been working on and has not completed. And he was very confident, and I don't think he was being sarcastic, saying that Marky G will continue on those unfinished projects. So he thinks that Andrew Holness has not completed them because he's waiting on Mark Golding to complete these projects that he, Dr. Andrew Holness, started. Now, I thought that was a very interesting and a bold statement, or bold statements to have been made by Peter Esfute, who is, in himself, give him his credit, an astute political commentator who has been writing for The Gleaner for many years. Now, it's very interesting, and let us look at, some of the things outlined in the manifesto. And The Gleaner is reporting that, and this was published on Wednesday, August 13th, opposition leader Mark Golding says the People's National Party's PNP manifesto stands on 10 pillars that will build Jamaica. Golding was speaking last night at the Jamaica Pegasus Hotel in New Kingston during the launch of the document titled Mission Jamaica Love, A People's Pledge to Country. He said that while Jamaica's macroeconomic numbers have improved steadily since 2013 due to bipartisan commitment to a sustained program of fiscal reform, and how many times are we going to hear the word sustained? When I was also reading the Manifesto by Mark Golding, which was a glossy and glamorous manifesto. First of all, it is technologically savvy. It is one that it's easy on the eyes. It's user-friendly. You can read it on your cell phone and you're like turning the page turner. And I think that it's also colorful. So we have to credit the PNP for doing that, for being creative with the design of their manifesto and the fact that they understand that young people are technologically oriented. So if they want to read, they'll get on their phones and it's accessible there and it's also readable. Andrew Holness had his, though it was colorful in a booklet, but he did not seek to publish it online. Another advantage of the PNP's manifesto is the fact that they also have an audio version of it, both in the Creole and also in Standard English. So that is something very interesting, something very unprecedented in Jamaica's history, that they understand that there are people who might not want to read. We know that we have a reading problem in Jamaica, and many people don't like to read. One of the reasons why they don't they're not interested in manifestos, in the publication of manifestos, is that Jamaicans don't like to read. So they're not going to take the time to sit down and read and concentrate and think critically over a piece of document that is very, very important. So isn't it wonderful that while they're driving in their taxis or on the bus or wherever they are, or they're cooking, they can tune in audio to this manifesto and they can listen. We're an oral society and people like to listen to things like their radio and their television and their news. So they can turn it on and they can listen to an audio version of the manifesto, both in Standard English and also in the Jamaican Creole. Now that is, they have superseded Andrew Holness as far as that is concerned. They have superseded Andrew Holness as far as that is concerned. But like most political commentators say, manifestos don't win election. I think they say 40% of Jamaicans are interested in manifestos, 60%, which is the large majority, are not interested in manifestos. It means, therefore, that manifestos might not make them win or will not make them win. However, we cannot discount, we cannot negate the fact that he has, and Mark Golding has published his both in an oral format and also a written format. It means, therefore, that many people will tune into his audio presentation and the swing voters could vote for him. That was something that was a real intelligent ploy by the PNP. We have to give them credit here that they could have done such, or they could have achieved such a feat as they did with producing it. I think it was a clever move by Mark Golding and his team. We have to be fair and we have to give credit where credit is due. So we see here where he launched it. So let's look at some of the planks that he has in his manifesto. He said wages cannot stretch, prices are rising daily, basic public services are substandard, young people have too few opportunities, and communities across the country are trapped in poverty, crime, and neglect. Further, he argued that stability in the public finances without quality of life for people is not prosperity and is why Jamaicans are clamoring for change. That is important. I think this is a solid point, not that Mark Golding might improve on the lives and the quality of life of the people, but this is politics, a game, and we understand that it is he who has the most cogent arguments. Those arguments that resonate is the one that is going to win the election. We know that. So I repeat that. Further, he argued that stability in the public finances without quality of life for people is not prosperity. And he's right, he's spot on. And why Jamaicans are clamoring for change. We understand both the progress and the pain because we have walked this road with you. We were the architects of Jamaica's celebrated macroeconomic reforms from the key elements of the fiscal responsibility. framework to the modernization of the revenue system, bringing the nation's debt under control and allowing a regime of inflation targeting rather to be introduced, said Golding. Now, isn't he now putting his foot or his feet in his mouth? No, at one point he's saying that if you're talking about only stability and it's not improving the quality of people's lives, then it's not prosperity. He's saying now all of that they have done, the fiscal responsibility that they were also involved in imposing upon Jamaicans, yet the quality of Jamaicans' lives deteriorated under the PNP as well when they were in office from 2011 to 2016. Okay? And that is what he needs to say. Okay? Now, the PNP is promising a lot of reforms. He said that it was the PNP that initiated the fundamental social reforms that decolonized the Jamaican society and created lasting programs like PATH, the National Health Fund, and the JADEP for seniors. So he's bragging on what the PNP has accomplished. Now, they're planning on improving the quality of education. And if you notice that it's 60 pages long, right, which I thought was too long. Why are you making, if Jamaicans already, if they know that Jamaicans are not passionate about reading documents, why do you make these things so long? Where are the English teachers, the communicators who can condense the document, the main points that the main planks of his manifesto and present it in 10 pages? Why 60 pages when we know that our people are not people who are committed to reading any document? That is what we need to, and it's not only the PNP. I'm not sure how many pages Dr. Andrew Holness's booklet had about his 256 political achievements, not achievement, but achievements. Okay? Now, he talked about the fact that education is of major priority. And I think that Damon Crawford, who was looking distinguished, and I would encourage Damon Crawford to look like that throughout the remaining tenure of his position, whether he's a opposition on the shadow minister on education, or if the PNP party should win the election and he should become Minister of Education, that he presents himself as he did at the Jamaica Pegasus Hotel. And I wonder if somebody has pinched the PNP, Mark Golding and his team, that they are going to win. And for that reason, they came all dapper, looking dapper in their suits and well-groomed, and Damon Crawford's hair was well-groomed, right? Mark Golding was well-groomed, was clean-shaven, looked prime ministerial. Something was happening at the Jamaica Pegasus Hotel. There might have been something there, I don't know, a special moment in the air that transformed them. But Damon Crawford, you are the Shadow Minister of Education. You cannot afford to just have your hair just flung all over the place sometimes, as you do, right? You should be a model to the students. You should be a model to the students. And one day I was surfing through TikTok and I came across an interview that was done with Damon Crawford. And the interviewer, okay, of the interview in which Damon Crawford was participating, okay, was well dressed, had on his shirt and tie. And Damon Crawford, it was done electronically, virtually. It was a virtual, interview. And Damon Crawford could be seen on his bed with, lying on his, his head on his pillow, and there he was participating in the interview. And I'm wondering, how low can we get as a people, as a society? Shouldn't Damon Crawford understand that you have an interview that is going to go up on the internet, and you are the current shadow minister on education, that the kids should they should see you and look up to you, and you're at home, relaxed in a relaxed manner, as if you're not working. And maybe you're not being paid by the interviewer, but the fact is that you hold a very important position, and you must always carry yourself in a respectable manner. Okay? So your hair must be properly groomed all the time. And it was properly groomed on Monday night. So why can't you do that all the time, Damon Crawford? You can do that. Okay, because imaging is very, very important and is very good and plays a critical role in even the way people vote. Okay, now let's look at education. They're suggesting that they're going to give or offer scholarships to those first-time family members, the first in to attend university from your family. Now, while that might be good, I don't know how they are going to prove that. How do you prove if I'm the first one to have entered university? You're going to go to my home and interview the people there. Wouldn't it have been better if the PNP had said that we are going to, help, provide half scholarships, or we are going to negotiate with these, tertiary institutions and ask them why their fees have to be so expensive? Why? Why is that their fees, the school fees have to be thus so expensive, and see how they can begin to either reduce them or find creative means of having our children educated. Because if you're going to be looking and spending your time losing energy over, proving whether or not somebody is the first to have attended university from a particular family, I think that's a waste of time. Because there's no way, understanding how corrupt Jamaica is, that you are going to prove that. You are not going to be able to prove that. That's not objective thinking. All right? You can't objectively measure whether or not this person is the first to have attended university. They can say anything. I mean, it's a very good idea, but that idea needs to be refined. Okay, very important, Mr. Golding, that you sit down. I did invite you on the program here. You have not responded, but that is something that you need to sit down and refine. Not impressed with that sort of manifesto, the plan coming from that manifesto. Another, as we were talking about education, Damon Crawford is also suggesting that instead of supporting the bus system, which Andrew Holness has rolled out or is continuing or will continue to roll out at the beginning of the school year, he's suggesting that because of absenteeism, that he's going to offer parents, X amount of money to send their children to school, because, some of them can't afford, sending the kids because they don't have any bus fare and they don't have any lunch money. But the fact is that it would have been better to develop on Andrew Holness's idea of having a functional school bus system. And then now you try to liaise with the schools to see ways in which you can offer meals to the students, so they have no excuse, right, that they can't be able to make it to school. And we need, like the United States, to formulate policies in which parents should be held accountable if they don't send their children to school, particularly if the state is providing meals for them, at least breakfast and lunch, and also transportation. I think that is what we need to do. Okay, but the fact of the matter that you are going to give the parents or the children $4,000 or $5,000, how much you're going to give that irresponsible. That is highly irresponsible, because you know our people. And the fact is, if they're dying of starvation at home, they're going to use the money that you've given them to buy groceries, which is going to, just a night's dinner. That's no money in Jamaica, $4,000. Okay, so it would have been better if Damon Crawford would refine some of the things, or improve on, not necessarily refine, but improve on Dr. Andrew Holness's policies on education in terms of transportation and nutrition, right? We need to stop playing dirty politics here, because our children are the ones at risk. And we want our ideas to be original. And that is why Damon Crawford is doing what he's doing, even though what he's saying makes no sense. All right? Just can't just go up there to talk because you can talk, right? This is talking about children's future. The GLP might be talking to, but at least they're trying to implement something. Say now ways in which that policy can be improved on. Okay, instead of bashing it and saying that it is corrupt and all of that. Jamaican's political system is corrupt. We know that on the PNP side and on the GLP. But whilst we're having the corruption, which is not going to go away magically, may our people, I hope that our people will get something out of the corrupt politics that we play in Jamaica. Now, what did the observers say about Andrew Holness? Not Andrew, I keep on calling him Andrew Holness, Mark Golding's manifesto. They're saying that PNP manifesto built on pillars of justice, opportunity, accountability, and more, says Golding. So they're looking at modern infrastructure, agriculture and food and security, justice for all, access to quality education, innovation and industry, accountability in governance. And when he talked about accountability in governance, he was suggesting that they're going to have impeachment for corrupt politicians. But how many times have we heard that? How many times have we heard that there are going to be impeachment, trials for those who are charged of corrupt activities? And it has never happened. It has never happened. Because why? Because they know that both sides are equally guilty. Okay. Now, opportunity for youth. I think he talked about the fact that the creative is going to be, actually investing in the creative sector where people will generate money and they'll be able to make their music and to brand Jamaica, as it were. Okay. Now, what is brand Jamaica? And is brand Jamaica affecting the lives of our people? Is it improving their lives? Recently the Prime Minister, for example, has employed Usain Bolt as an icon for brand Jamaica. What is that about? That is probably what, making money for Usain Bolt and bringing some tourists to fatten the pockets of the foreign investors who send their profits away to tax havens and leave us without any form of development. So while we might be happy for Usain Bolt, but what is Usain Bolt going to say? Oh, because he's a track star, that means that. So we always brand ourselves through the lens of sports and music. We don't brand ourselves as serious, educated society, as a serious, educated society. And that is why people tell me, oh, the Africans love us. And yesterday, somebody was telling me on the video that I published recently about having been to Burkina Faso, and the people loved him because once they told him he was Jamaican, and they all loved him. And that is great that people see us as cool. But we want to be looked at beyond just a cool looking people. Okay? We want to be seen as studious, as intellectuals, okay, as visionaries who know where we are going. And when people land in Jamaica, we want them to see a society that is cultured, disciplined, productive, okay, and sophisticated. That is what we want them to see. But that is not what they're seeing. And we're proud of what they go down there and see. So Mark Golding is talking about improving the monetary rewards or compensation incentive for those who are making their music, because music forms an integral part of the society. But we need also now to invest money more in education. We have done a lot of the music, and yeah, they continue to generate funds and find some other ways to give them their stuff and their flowers. But at the end of the day, we have too many musicians, too many entertainers, and dungu 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 every day. We have had enough of that right now. We've had enough of that right now. Let's now brand ourselves, or rebrand ourselves, I should say, as an educated people. When I see some of the pockets of excellence in Jamaica, you really wonder if we had invested in education and skills training and grown. I'm very pleased to see what they're doing with School Challenge Quiz, that we have a junior version of School Challenge Quiz, and they also have another tourism competition there. These are some of the things that we need to build on, right? Because you look at our young people, you see the potential in our people if we invest in educating our people. And the word, Damon Crawford, is education and graduation. It's not education and graduation. Okay? And these are things that we need to learn to pronounce. These are words that we need to learn to pronounce. Graduation and education. And he is the Minister of Education, so he should be setting the example. All right? Now, that is what Mark Golding is actually proposing in his manifesto. Violence prevention, and there's nothing much that I see there about violence prevention. Are they going to increase the number of police on the road? Okay. And environmental resilience. And they're all talking about that. What do they mean by environmental resilience and the sustainability and all of that? Build sustainable homes. And, he's going to build 500 homes across the island. Is it 5,000? Yeah, I think it's 5,000. I mean, out of 3 million people. Now, is that going to be sufficient? And I think the whole policy of people who have rented a place and they've been living there for some time, eventually they can upgrade to mortgage. I mean, all of that needs to be refined. It's not making any sense to me, but it sounds too good to be true. Or are they talking about the new home that, you can rent it first and then eventually you can upgrade it to a mortgage? I think perhaps that's what they're talking about. Because, you can't just rent somebody a place and then after living there for a number of years, then you buy it, So I think perhaps that's what he's suggesting, that when you bought your new home, if you buy a new home, I think it's a mortgage you're paying. The entire thing is very confusing for me in terms of what he is proposing for land reform, sorry. That to me was not, I'm not sure I understand what he was saying. Do you? Please explain to me what he was saying. I was lost there. Okay, so this matter of resilience and environmental resilience is something that we have to watch. Is a United Nations agenda, and it might not be what we think it is. He's saying here, this is what Mark Golding is saying, we will protect economic stability and leverage it into inclusive and sustainable growth. I hate the word sustainable because everything is sustainable, creating a new era of opportunities for those who are now excluded from prosperity while tackling corruption and the abuse of power in governance. Okay, so he's saying now, Jamaica, time come to lift our country higher and build a future that belongs to all of us. Let us take this opportunity together. Now, as I mentioned, the meeting was impressive, right? With all the optics that I would give them a 10 out of 10 for what I saw there on Monday night. I was impressed. And not the PNP really has gone off the road that they used to travel on in terms of becoming lackadaisical, messaging off, poor communicators. But on Monday night, they showed themselves and they presented a good front, a good image of the party of Norman Washington Manley, right? Of the party of Norman Washington Manley. I was impressed, most impressed. Now, the whole question of, did the GLP make a serious mistake by calling the election too late? Should they have called the election in July or before then? These are some points that are made by Gordon Robinson in his piece this morning in the Sunday Leader. All right. And he's suggesting here, that's Gordon Robinson in his piece that he wrote for the Gleaner this morning. The election is already won and lost. This is what Gordon Robinson is saying. Somebody's going to win, somebody's going to lose. That's what he means. The next 3 weeks can only become an intolerably prolonged pre-game show as fodder for so-called political analysts' incessant yapping, while political party sycophants secure their reward for political loyalty. At the same time, so-called uncommitted voters, who have long also committed to their own choices, chafe at the bit to dip their fingers in indelible ink or buy popcorn with which to watch the game. Because it's a game, right? It's a game. It's not a real thing, right? There seems to be a casual dismissal of the need for manifestos creeping into political discussion. One political analyst essayed the opinion manifestos don't sway voters. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. But that's not manifesto's purpose. It's a very good point that Robertson is actually bringing forward. Manifestos are the record, or the record, I should say, we the people use to hold the next government accountable. And he's right. It's not just about publishing a manifesto for publishing its sake and whether or not the people read it. It is the document, it is their pledge, their contract with us that these are the things that they are going to do. And if they don't do it, we should hold them accountable. They're like pleading in a civil lawsuit. If you deviate from your pleading at trial, the judge will hold you to account. We are the judges of government's deviation from manifestos, and he's right. On April 13th, pick a winner, woulda, please. I predicted a GLP win by 1 to 4 seats, depending on the outcome of specific variables. Firstly, I expected the election to be done and dusted before July. So that's one variable out the window. The delay, apparently to ensure a popularity boost from independent celebrations, has, in my opinion, this is what Gordon Robinson is expressing, not my thoughts, but I agree with him, operated against GLP's interests and very much in favor of the PNP because they come back. They really have come back. And I'm wondering if maybe the week before the election or a couple of days before the election is held, that you'll have the likes of Vybz Kartel going on Mana, and big concert down there with Vybz Kartel. Because he came out of the prison cells with decked in the colors of the PNP. Okay, so there is a possibility that towards as the general election approaches, as the nearer it approaches, maybe 2 days, a night before, I don't know. These are my speculations that you'll have the likes of Vybz Kartel having a concert, being on the campaign trail on behalf of the PNP, and don't ask if they should call the likes of the Mia Motleys. And if Mia Motley should travel from Barbados to Jamaica because her sister-in-law lives, her brother-in-law, her brother rather, is, I think he lives there too. Yeah, he's married to Duncan Motley. Okay. So if she goes down there and she endorses Mark Golding, the game might be over. The game might be over because she's well loved by Jamaicans. She's well loved by Jamaicans and she loves Jamaica. Okay, so I would not be surprised if she heads down there, even though she's a member of state. She's Prime Minister of Barbados, but I saw what's his name the other day from St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Dr. Ralph Gonzalez. He was there and he was endorsing. He actually endorsed Mark Golding's leadership and his vying for Prime Minister of Jamaica. And he was using the slogan, "Time come." All right. So I would not be surprised if Mia Motley is going to be heading to Jamaica and also Vybz Kartel as the entertainer to rev up the emotions of the people and have them vote for the PNP. That could be, I think they're saving the best for last. And if they drop that on you, Andrew Holness, you might lose the election, right? If they drop that on you, you might lose the election, all right? Remember now that, Mark Golding is a rich man and the Buntings and so forth, so they can pay their Vybz Kartel and the Mia Motleys. Maybe Mia Motley will not be paid because, they have their ways of, showing favors to each other, right? So she might not have to be monetarily rewarded, but I'm sure that Vybz Kartel will be, all right, if they invite him there. So this is what now he continues to say. Frankly, I'm flummoxed as to what Prime Minister was thinking, and I question either the savvy or cajons of his advisors, excluding Desmond and Darrell, who have an abundance of both, who ought to have cautioned him if he was distracted. Anyway, it is what it is, he's suggesting. On April 13th, I concluded I'm expecting Floyd to leverage his agriculture ministry's achievements, bring home the bellwether, and to confirm GLPs as words 32 to 31 win, 33 to 30 if Portmore is a parish, 34 to 29 if Chuck Samuda's successor both win. My moles tell me the delay has gone against GLP in both constituency variables. and these are big constituencies. Government having failed to gerrymander an entire parish to win one seat, Raymond Price should end Terrelong's political adventure in St. Catherine East Central. Raymond should have done so in 2020, but we all know what Rise United did to PNP 6 years ago when COVID came along to give one PNPers an excuse to stay home. Since then, PNP support has coalesced behind Raymond, so that's one more in PNP's win column. So it is highly likely, according to what Robinson is suggesting here, that Raymond Price of the PNP will win Terrelong. All right, very interesting sort of analysis here. Gordon Robinson. The delay has also helped Stacey Knight's campaign to unseat a tired-looking Delroy Chuck in St. Andrew Northeastern. She's an excellent candidate with unlimited potential in national politics, while Delroy seems to have been taking constituents for granted for a while. You know, these people are old now, aren't they? His long stint as MP has been assisted by weak, uncoordinated PNP competition. My upset special in this election is Stacey Knight to retire Delroy Chuck, and that might just happen. All right, so that would be another win for the PNP. Okay. And I believe, and I did a video on that, I will publish it maybe on my second channel. And for those of you, I have a second channel. It's called Andrew Tucker TV. You can go over there and subscribe and show me some love. I leave the link in the description box, in the description. Yeah. So after considering all constituency variables, JLP is down by winning by the flare of a nostril, 32-31. That's a very thin margin. When you consider some of the bad news that has befallen JLP during the last 6 weeks, including legal setbacks, constitutional reform stalling, candidate selection strife, especially in Carson swing seat. Yes, I said swing seat because the PNP could also win that. Public service unrest and steady increase in real cost of living, this election can clearly go either way. But, he continues to say, here are the things uncommitted voters must assess. If PNP wins Jamaica and will be led by the most experienced prime minister in history, his political pedigree is short and his ministerial experience limited. That's Mark Golding'S. As justice minister for a while, he wasn't exposed to any cabinet position that deals fundamentally with crucial national issues. Those include finance, education, health, and infrastructure. Even labor/social security brings the minister closer to national realities. Shepherding legislation doesn't prepare you for creating national policy. And he's right that Mark Golding is inexperienced. He hasn't had the level of experience to deal with the office that he is about to assume if he wins the next election. So voters who want Mark Golding in Jamaica House must hope that candidates like Peter Bunting, Dayton Campbell, and young guns with political or policy pedigree or experience like Janice Allen and Stacey Knight win their seats because he'll need all the help he can get or will accept. All right? So this is what we're seeing here. This is a new trend that the PNP seems to be coming back with a vengeance. And the PNP is unpredictable. The PNP over the years, if you have studied them in terms of their election, particularly under PJ Patterson, the PNP is an unpredictable party. They can ride the momentum. Yes, we know the leader is not the most effective. He's not the most experienced, but he has a team that he's working with. And it seems like he is humble enough, that Mark Golding is humble enough to take their suggestions, and he's riding on the high tide. Will he emerge as the victor and become the next Prime Minister of Jamaica? Will Mark Golding defeat Andrew Holness, Dr. Andrew Michael Holness, in his bid for a third term in political office. Thank you so much for joining. I hope that you'd like, share, and subscribe. Like the video so the videos can be shared with as many people on the platform. And those of you who can make your contributions, your financial contributions, you can send your financial donations to my PayPal account, Andy_Tucker_450 at hotmail.com. Andy_Tucker_450 at hotmail.com. And I will leave this address, my PayPal address, in also the description. Have a great Sunday, and we are just about to begin the party, the carnival, and we know that it is going to be exciting. Remember now that is going to come and go, and you will get older, and the days will continue. Ciao.